What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors sits down for what should be a simple morning chat and finds himself ambushed by a host more interested in stirring controversy than conducting an interview? In just 33 seconds, a single dismissive comment would transform a routine promotional appearance into the most explosive morning television moment of the year, exposing the entitled attitude that viewers had long suspected lurked behind the cameras. The studio lights were bright that morning as Tom Hardy settled into the familiar cream-colored couch, his dark jacket and simple shirt a stark contrast to the overly styled set around him. He had flown in specifically for this appearance, promoting his latest film, a passion project years in the making. The audience applauded warmly as he shook hands with Savannah Guthrie, Hoda Kotb beaming from her seat beside the main desk, and Al Roker standing off to the side with his characteristic smile. "Tom Hardy, welcome back," Savannah said, her smile wide, but her eyes calculating. "It has been too long." "Thanks for having me," Tom replied, his voice that distinctive gravelly tone his fans knew well. "Happy to be here." "So let's talk about your new film," Savannah began, leaning forward with an expression that seemed less interested and more predatory. "You have been working on this for what, 3 years now?" "About that, yeah," Tom nodded. "It has been a real labor of love. We shot in some incredibly remote locations, worked with an amazing cast and crew." Right, Savannah interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. "But let's be honest, Tom. Your last few projects have not exactly been box office gold, have they? I mean, you have had some pretty significant flops." The shift in tone was immediate and jarring. Hoda's smile faltered slightly, and Al shifted uncomfortably. Tom's expression remained calm, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes. "I would not call them flops," Tom said carefully. "Different films connect with different audiences. Not everything is about opening weekend numbers." "Well, when you are getting paid what you get paid," Savannah pressed, her voice taking on an edge, "people expect results. They expect you to deliver. And lately, you have not been delivering, have you?" "I think that is a pretty narrow way to look at filmmaking," Tom replied, his jaw tightening slightly. "These are artistic endeavors. We are telling stories, not just making products." Savannah laughed, but it was not a warm sound. "Artistic endeavors? Tom, you are making movies, entertainment. And when people pay $15 for a ticket, they want to be entertained. They do not want to sit through some self-indulgent passion project that you think is important." "Savannah," Hoda interjected gently, "maybe we could talk about the actual film." "Tom, what is the story about?" "I would love to," Tom said, turning toward Hoda with visible relief. "It is about a father trying to reconnect with his son after years of absence. It explores themes of redemption, forgiveness, and what it really means to be present in someone's life." "Sounds depressing," Savannah cut in, her tone mocking. "Is there anything fun in it? Or is it just 2 hours of brooding and crying?" Tom stared at her for a long moment. "It is an emotional film, yes. It deals with real human experiences. Not everything has to be explosions and car chases." "No, but it helps if people actually want to see it," Savannah shot back. "And let's face it, your track record lately suggests that people do not want to see what you are selling." "That is incredibly disrespectful," Tom said, his voice low but firm. "You invited me here to talk about my work, and instead, you are attacking me personally." "I am asking you honest questions," Savannah replied, her voice rising slightly. "Questions that our viewers want answered. You are a public figure, Tom. You put yourself out there. You do not get to pick and choose what you want to talk about." Al Roker stepped forward, his usual jovial demeanor replaced with concern. "Hey, maybe we should take a breath here. Tom, why don't you tell us about working with your co-stars?" "Thank you, Al," Tom said, clearly trying to regain composure. "Yes, the cast was incredible. We had some really talented young actors, and working with them reminded me why I love this job. Speaking of young actors, Savannah jumped back in, there have been some rumors about on-set tensions. Care to address those? Tom's eyes narrowed. What rumors? Oh, Savannah said with a smirk. Whispers about difficult behavior. Diva moments. Making unreasonable demands. That is completely false, Tom said, his voice hardening. I do not know where you are getting your information, but it is wrong. Multiple sources, Savannah said smugly. Very reliable sources. What sources? Tom demanded. Who told you that? I cannot reveal my sources, Savannah replied, examining her notes as if this were a prosecutorial hearing, rather than a morning talk show. But they were very clear about your behavior on set. This is absurd, Tom said, shaking his head. You are making things up. I am not making anything up, Savannah snapped. I am a journalist. I report facts. You are a morning show host, Tom corrected, his accent thickening with emotion. And right now, you are not reporting anything. You are spreading gossip and lies. Hoda tried again to intervene. Okay, tensions are running high. Let's all just take a moment. No, Savannah said sharply, turning to Hoda with an expression of irritation. He needs to answer these questions. He cannot just show up here and expect us to give him free publicity without accountability. Accountability for what? Tom asked, his voice rising now. For making films? For being an actor? What exactly am I being held accountable for? For wasting people's time and money, Savannah said bluntly. For putting out subpar work and expecting everyone to celebrate you for it. For acting like you are above criticism. The studio had gone quiet. Even the crew members behind the cameras looked uncomfortable. This had gone far beyond a typical contentious interview. I have never acted like I am above criticism, Tom said, his words measured but forceful. But there is a difference between criticism and ambush. You brought me here under false pretenses. You told my team this would be a standard promotional interview. Instead, you are attacking me, making up stories, and trying to humiliate me on live television. If you feel attacked, Savannah said, leaning back with her arms crossed, maybe that says more about you than it does about me. Maybe you cannot handle honest questions because you know you have been coasting on your reputation. Coasting? Tom's voice was incredulous now. I work harder than most people in this industry. I prepare for months for every role. I show up on time. I know my lines. I respect my collaborators. What more do you want? I want honesty, Savannah said. I want you to admit that your recent films have been failures. I want you to acknowledge that you have been phoning it in. That is your opinion, Tom said firmly, and you are entitled to it. But do not present your opinion as fact. Do not sit there and tell me that I have not been working hard or that I do not care about my craft. You do not know anything about what goes into what I do. I know box office numbers, Savannah countered, and yours have been terrible. Al stepped forward again, this time with more urgency in his voice. Savannah, I think we should move on. This has gotten out of hand. Stay out of this, Al, Savannah said without looking at him. Tom and I are having a conversation. This is not a conversation, Tom said, standing up now. This is an interrogation, and I did not sign up for it. Sit down, Savannah commanded, her voice sharp. We are not done here. Yes, we are, Tom said, pulling off his microphone. I am done. I came here in good faith, and you have treated me with nothing but contempt. I do not have to sit here and take this. If you walk off this set, Savannah said, her voice taking on a threatening tone, everyone will know what kind of person you really are. They will see that you cannot handle tough questions, that you are fragile and entitled. Tom stopped, turning back to face her. Entitled? You are calling me entitled? You sit in that chair every morning, making millions of dollars, and you think you have the right to treat people however you want. You think because you have a platform, you can be cruel and call it journalism. That is entitlement, Savannah. That is what real entitlement looks like. How dare you, Savannah said, standing up herself now. I have worked my entire career to get here. I have earned this position. And I have not earned mine, Tom shot back. I have spent 25 years building my career, taking risks, doing work that matters to me. And you sit there and dismiss all of it because you think you are smarter than everyone else. You think you can reduce a person's life work to box office numbers and tabloid rumors. Hoda stood up, placing a hand on Savannah's arm. Savannah, please. This needs to stop. Savannah shook off Hoda's hand. He started this by being defensive. I was just asking questions. You were attacking him, Hoda said quietly, but firmly. We all saw it. Everyone watching saw it. This was not an interview. This was something else. Whose side are you on? Savannah turned to Hoda with disbelief. I am not on anyone's side, Hoda said. But I know how interviews are supposed to go, and this was not it. Tom stood there, his microphone in his hand, looking at the panel. I appreciate you trying, Hoda. Al. But I'm not going to stay here and be insulted. Life is too short. You are making a huge mistake, Savannah said, her voice cold. You will regret this. The only thing I regret, Tom said, is agreeing to come here in the first place. I was told this would be a respectful conversation about my work. Instead, I walked into an ambush. You clearly had an agenda before I even sat down. My agenda is the truth, Savannah insisted. No, Tom said, shaking his head. Your agenda is ratings. Your agenda is creating drama. You do not care about the truth. You care about going viral. You care about being talked about. And you know what? Congratulations. You will get your wish. People will talk about this. But they will not be talking about what a great journalist you are. They will be talking about how you treated a guest. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Savannah seemed momentarily at a loss for words. Production assistants were whispering urgently into their headsets. Cameras were still rolling, capturing every moment of this unprecedented meltdown. Al tried one more time. Tom, maybe we could all just reset. Start fresh. Talk about the film properly. Tom looked at Al with genuine appreciation. That is kind of you, Al. Really. But no, I cannot do this. I will not do this. I came here to share something I care deeply about, and I have been nothing but disrespected from the moment I sat down. That is not okay. I do not care who you are, or what show this is. Everyone deserves basic respect, and if you cannot give that, then you do not deserve my time. Fine, Savannah said, her arms still crossed, her face flushed with anger. Leave, but do not expect to be invited back. Tom actually laughed at that, but it was a bitter sound. Invited back? Why would I ever want to come back? So you can ambush me again? So you can make up more stories about me? So you can tear me down to make yourself feel important? No thanks. I will pass. You are being childish, Savannah said. And you are being unprofessional, Tom countered. But I am the one leaving, so I guess that makes me the adult here. He turned to leave, and that is when Savannah made her biggest mistake. That is right. Run away, she called after him. Just like you run away from real criticism. Just like you run away from your failures. You are good at that, are you not? Running away. Tom stopped in his tracks. The entire studio seemed to hold its breath. Slowly, he turned back around. His face was calm, but his eyes were blazing. You want to know about running away? Tom said, his voice quiet but carrying through the studio. I have faced things you could not imagine. I have dealt with challenges that would break most people. I have worked on myself, owned my mistakes, and tried to be better every single day. And I have done it all while people like you sit in judgment, pretending you know me, pretending you understand my life. You know nothing about me, nothing about what I have been through or what I have overcome, and you certainly have no right to stand there and question my character." "I have every right," Savannah said, but her voice was less certain now. "This is my show, my platform." "Then use it responsibly," Tom said. "Use it to build people up instead of tearing them down. Use it to have real conversations instead of creating fake controversies. Use it to actually inform and inspire your viewers instead of feeding them garbage disguised as news." "How dare you tell me how to do my job?" Savannah said. "Someone needs to," Tom replied, "because clearly nobody else has. You have gotten away with this behavior for too long, treating guests like adversaries, acting like their job is to entertain you rather than the other way around, thinking that being aggressive makes you a good interviewer when really it just makes you mean." Hoda had tears in her eyes now. "Tom, Savannah, please, can we all just calm down?" "I am calm," Tom said, and remarkably, he was. His voice had lost its edge, replaced with something almost sad. "I am just disappointed. I expected better. I thought this show was supposed to be the friendly alternative, the place where people felt comfortable. But this was hostile from the start, and I do not understand why." "Because I am tired of celebrities thinking they are special," Savannah said, and for the first time, her mask slipped entirely. "You all come in here with your handlers and your demands and your expectations. You want us to fawn over you, to tell you how wonderful you are, to promote your projects without asking any hard questions. Well, I am sorry, but that is not journalism. That is public relations. And I am not a publicist. I am a journalist." "Then act like one," Tom said. "Journalists seek truth. They ask tough questions, yes, but they do it with integrity. They do it with respect. They do not manufacture controversies. They do not spread unverified rumors. They certainly do not verbally attack their interview subjects for sport." "I did not attack you," Savannah protested weakly. "Yes, you did," Tom said. "And everyone here knows it. Everyone watching knows it. You can try to justify it however you want, but that does not change what happened. You came at me with hostility and contempt, and when I defended myself, you got angry. You wanted me to sit there and take it, to be meek and apologetic. But I am not going to do that. Not for you. Not for anyone." The production crew was in chaos now. Producers were running onto the set, trying to figure out how to salvage the situation. But it was too late. The damage was done. "I think you should leave," Savannah said, her voice shaking slightly. "Right now." "I have been trying to leave," Tom pointed out. "You are the one who keeps talking." "Get him out of here," Savannah said to the producers. "Get him off my set." "Your set?" Tom raised an eyebrow. "Interesting choice of words. Not our set. Not the show's set. Your set. That tells me everything I need to know about how you see yourself. This is not about the show. This is not about your co-hosts or your audience. This is about you, your ego, your need to be in control, your need to dominate every interaction. You do not know anything about me," Savannah said, and there was real anger in her voice now. "I know enough," Tom said. "I know that you invited me here with false pretenses. I know that you ambushed me. I know that you tried to humiliate me. And I know that when I stood up for myself, you could not handle it. That is enough." "You think you are so noble," Savannah said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Standing up for yourself, being the brave actor who will not be pushed around. But you know what I see? I see someone who cannot take criticism. Someone who throws a tantrum when things do not go his way." "A tantrum?" Tom repeated, his voice dangerously quiet. "You think defending myself against false accusations and personal attacks is a tantrum? That says far more about your expectations than it does about my behavior. You were defensive from the moment you sat down, Savannah pressed. Every question I asked, you had an excuse. Every point I made, you deflected. Because every question you asked was designed to attack me, Tom shot back. You were not interested in my film. You were not interested in my process. You were interested in tearing me down. And when I would not play along, when I would not just sit here and nod while you insulted me, you got frustrated. Hoda stepped between them now, her usual warmth replaced with something more serious. Savannah, I think Tom has a point. This interview went off the rails very quickly, and I think we need to acknowledge that. Are you seriously taking his side? Savannah turned on Hoda with disbelief. He is a guest. We are the hosts. We set the tone. We ask the questions. Yes, we ask questions, Hoda said firmly. But we also treat our guests with respect. That is what this show has always been about. Making people feel welcome. Making them feel comfortable. What happened here today, that was not us. That was not who we are. Do not lecture me about who we are, Savannah snapped. I have been doing this job longer than anyone. I know what this show is about. Then why did you treat me like an enemy? Tom asked. What did I do to deserve this? I showed up on time. I was polite. I was ready to talk about my work. And from the very first question, you came at me with hostility. Why? What did I do to you? Savannah opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. For a moment, she seemed to struggle with something internal. You represent everything that is wrong with this industry, she finally said. The entitlement, the self-importance, the idea that you can just show up and we should all be grateful. I never asked anyone to be grateful, Tom said quietly. I just asked to be treated like a human being. Is that really too much to ask? You want to be treated like a human being? Savannah's voice rose again. Then act like one. Admit that your recent work has been subpar. Admit that you have been coasting. Admit that maybe, just maybe, the critics have a point. What critics? Tom demanded. You keep saying these things, but you have not cited a single specific review. You have not quoted a single actual person. You are speaking in generalities and presenting them as facts. That is not journalism. That is opinion masquerading as news. Al Roker, who had been standing quietly to the side, finally spoke up again. You know, Tom makes a fair point. Savannah, you have been pretty aggressive this morning, even for you. Not you two, Al, Savannah said, looking betrayed. I cannot believe you are all ganging up on me. Nobody is ganging up on you, Al said gently. We are trying to help you see that this has gotten out of hand. This was supposed to be a friendly interview, and it turned into something else, something uncomfortable, and I think we all bear some responsibility for that, but particularly you need to recognize your part in it. My part in it? Savannah's voice was incredulous. He is the one walking off the set. He is the one making a scene. Because you pushed him to it, Tom said. You pushed and pushed and pushed, and when I finally said enough, you act like I am the problem. That is gaslighting, Savannah. That is exactly what that is. Do not use therapy speak with me, Savannah said dismissively. This is not a counseling session. No, it is not, Tom agreed. It is supposed to be an interview, but you made it personal. You made it about me as a person, not about my work. You questioned my character, my work ethic, my integrity. Those are personal attacks, and I do not have to sit here and accept them. You are a public figure, Savannah insisted. You chose this life. You chose to be in the spotlight. That means you open yourself up to scrutiny. Scrutiny, yes, Tom said. Abuse? No. There is a line, Savannah, and you crossed it multiple times. And the worst part is, You do not even seem to realize it. You genuinely think you were just doing your job. I was doing my job, Savannah said, but her voice lacked conviction now. Your job is to inform and entertain, Tom said. Your job is to have interesting conversations that your audience enjoys. Your job is not to bully guests. It is not to make people feel small so you can feel big. That is not journalism. That is just cruelty with a microphone. The words hung in the air. Even Savannah seemed to feel the weight of them. She looked around at her co-hosts, at the crew, at the cameras, and for the first time, she seemed uncertain. I was not trying to be cruel, she said, but it sounded hollow. Maybe not, Tom said. Maybe you were just trying to be provocative, or edgy, or whatever you want to call it. But intent does not matter as much as impact. And the impact of your words was hurtful, it was disrespectful, and it was unnecessary. Fine, Savannah said, crossing her arms again. I am sorry if you felt hurt. If I felt hurt, Tom repeated. That is not an apology. That is you deflecting responsibility. You are sorry if I felt hurt, as if my feelings are the problem, not your actions. What do you want from me? Savannah asked, and there was genuine frustration in her voice now. You want me to grovel? You want me to beg for your forgiveness? I want you to take responsibility, Tom said. I want you to admit that you were out of line. Not if I felt hurt, not if I was offended, but that you were actually, objectively wrong in how you conducted this interview. Can you do that? Can you admit that? The silence stretched out. Every eye in the studio was on Savannah. She looked at Tom, then at Hoda, then at Al, then back at Tom. Her jaw worked as if she were trying to form words, but nothing came out. I thought so, Tom said sadly. You cannot do it. You cannot admit fault. Because in your mind, you did nothing wrong. You were just asking tough questions. You were just being a journalist. And anyone who has a problem with that is just too sensitive, too fragile, too entitled. That is not fair, Savannah said weakly. Fair? Tom's voice rose for the first time in minutes. You want to talk about fair? Was it fair to ambush me with lies about on-set behavior? Was it fair to call my work self-indulgent? Was it fair to say I was coasting? Was any of that fair, Savannah? Those were questions, Savannah tried. No, Tom said firmly. Those were accusations phrased as questions. There is a difference. If you wanted to ask about my process, you could have said, tell me about your approach to this role. If you wanted to discuss box office, you could have said, how do you measure success in your career? But instead, you came at me with loaded statements designed to make me defensive. That was a choice you made. Own it. Hoda was nodding now. He is right, Savannah. I have been sitting here thinking about it, and he is right. Those were not neutral questions. They were attacks. Thank you, Tom said to Hoda. I appreciate you saying that. I'm just being honest, Hoda said. And honestly, I am embarrassed. This is not who we are as a show. This is not the environment we want to create. People should want to come here. They should feel safe here. And today, we failed at that. We did not fail, Savannah protested. I did not fail. I was doing my job. Your job is not to make guests feel unsafe, Al said. Your job is not to create hostile confrontations. Your job is to have conversations. Real conversations. With mutual respect and genuine curiosity. What happened here today was not that. Al and Hoda were both trying to speak now, trying to de-escalate, but their voices were lost in the tension between Tom and Savannah. It was as if the two of them were in their own world, locked in this battle of wills. You are going to regret this, Savannah said again, but this time it sounded like a plea rather than a threat. No, Tom said with certainty. I will not. The only thing I would regret is staying here and continuing to be treated this way. I have more respect for myself than that. And honestly, you should have more respect for yourself too. You are better than this. Or at least, you should be. With that, Tom Hardy turned and walked off the set. He did not look back. He did not hesitate. He simply left, his dignity intact, leaving behind a studio full of shocked faces and a host who suddenly looked very small in her big chair. The cameras kept rolling, capturing Savannah's face as she tried to compose herself. She looked to her co-hosts, but Hoda was looking away, and Al was staring at the floor. The audience sat in stunned silence, unsure of what they had just witnessed. "We need to go to commercial," someone called out from behind the cameras. Savannah nodded, unable to speak. She had wanted to create a moment, to make news, to prove something, and she had succeeded, but not in the way she had intended. She had not exposed Tom Hardy as difficult or entitled. Instead, she had exposed herself, and there was no taking it back. As the commercial break began and the red lights on the cameras went dark, the reality of what had just happened began to sink in. An interview that should have taken 20 minutes and promoted a film had instead become a viral moment that would define everyone involved. Tom Hardy had walked off the set of the Today Show, and nothing would ever be quite the same